The Streets Traffic and Refuse Committee will be called to order. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderwoman Murphy.
Here.
Alderman Coder.
Here.
Alderwoman Martin.
Here.
Alderwoman Boyd. Alderman Bosley. Alderwoman Middlebrook.
Here.
Chairman Boyd.
Present.
5 present. You have quorum.
Okay. I'll entertain a motion on adoption of the minutes dated October 6, 2020.
Move that we adopt the minutes from the October 6, 2020 Streets Traffic and Refuse Committee meeting.
Second.
It's been moved and second. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderwoman Murphy.
Aye.
Alderman Coder.
Aye.
Alderwoman Martin.
Aye.
Alderwoman Boyd. Alderman Bosley. Alderwoman Middlebrook.
Aye.
Chairman Boyd.
Aye.
5 aye votes.
Okay, motion carries. Okay, the first couple of bills we're going to take up is Board Bill 123, 124, sponsored by Alderman Todd. Alderman Todd, you're recognized on Board Bill 123.
And Board Bill 123, that's dealing with the blockage of Maple Avenue. Maple Avenue, the residents have reported that the drivers are driving at a dangerous speed. I would like to block it off, have it blocked off in order to make sure that the residents there are safe.
Okay. Any questions from the committee? Alderwoman Murphy.
No questions.
Alderman Coulter.
No questions.
Alderwoman Martin.
No questions.
Alderwoman Pam Boyd. Alderman Bosley. Alderwoman Middlebrook.
No questions.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion on Board Bill 123.
I move that we adopt Board Bill 123 with a due pass recommendation.
Second.
Previous roll.
It's been moved and second. Hearing no objection to previous roll, Board Bill 123 comes out of committee with a due pass recommendation. Next board bill before us is Board Bill 124, sponsored by Alderman Todd.
This bill on CD Banks, big trucks have been using that small street and they are speeding, and one lady's house was damaged from the weight of the truck. And so I would like to have a sign placed saying no commercial vehicles, and a law made that no commercial vehicles are allowed to park on that street except when they are loading and unloading for not to park, not to just drive through as a shortcut. So they're using it as a shortcut, and we do have streets that they could use, but they're not using those streets.
Okay. Questions from members of the committee? Alderwoman Murphy.
No questions. Seems fair.
Okay.
No questions.
Alderwoman Pam Boyd. Alderman Bosley. Alderwoman Middlebrook.
No questions.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion on Board Bill 124.
I move that we adopt Board Bill 124 with a due pass recommendation.
Second.
Then moved.
Previous roll.
Hearing no objection to previous roll, Board Bill 124 comes out of committee with due pass recommendation. All right, next board bill before us is Board Bill 132, sponsored by Alderwoman Sharon Caius. Can't hear you. It says connecting to audio.
Can you hear me now?
Now we can hear you.
Sorry. It doesn't show I was muted, but I was. Good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee.
Good morning.
Board Bill 132 is a board bill recommended by the Parking Commission, authorizing the city, acting through the treasurer of the city in the capacity of the parking supervisor to request a proposal from financial institutions so she can apply for a revolving line of credit not to exceed $5 million and not to exceed 5 years. I am requesting that Board Bill 132 be introduced before the committee, but I also have amendments. And do you want me to introduce the amendments at this time or ask for this bill to be before the committee?
The bill is before the committee.
So I'd like to move to introduce amendment number 1. And it should be before everyone.
Okay, you can't make that motion.
I'm not, you are correct.
Okay. Is there a member of the committee that want to make a motion on amendment number 1? Does everybody have amendment number 1?
I'm looking for it. I don't.
So, Mr. Chairman, amendment number 1, basically it takes out on page 3 or 4, it says that there is a exhibit A. That is not true. There is no exhibit A. So basically on page 3 or 4, line 1, there is a period that is placed after proposal. I'm sorry. Yes, for proposal. And it removes the words insubstantially, the form attached as exhibit A, and then it removes exhibit A. And I did submit them to the clerk, but it was rather late because I was waiting for it to be submitted to me. So I ended up writing it myself.
How many amendments do we have for 132?
132, there's actually 2.
2.
I think I must be missing something because I'm sure it's there. I'm just somehow.
Yeah. Hey, Chairman, point of order. I do see the amendments are in the board bills folder. They're in there. But
Go ahead.
Chairman, could I ask a question about the amendment? Sorry, I don't know if we're out of order here, but just a technical issue. There's a second Alderwoman Tyus. There's a second reference to Exhibit A a little farther down.
Wait a minute. Actually, wait a minute. Let's just go ahead and put the amendment before the committee to discuss it. I'm still trying to find the first one.
Trying to find the board bill.
I'm looking in the board bills folder. 1, 2. Okay, so let's deal with amendment number 1 first. So, I'll move to put amendment number 1 to Board Bill 132 before the committee.
Second, request previous roll.
No objection to previous roll. Amendment number 1 is to Board Bill 132 is before the committee. Okay, Alderwoman Tyus, go ahead and explain that again.
And if I could also, I will, Mr. Chairman, but Alderman Coulter is right. There is a second mention of Exhibit A on line 14 of the same page, which if I could change this amendment to include to remove section 6, that would be all at the same time. Basically, what this amendment does is takes out Exhibit A, request for financial proposal, which is listed as an attachment and exhibit, but it is not part of this board bill. So I did it at 4 o'clock in this morning because I didn't have it and I was trying to get it done, but I did miss line 14 and 15. So my amendment would be changed to remove line 14 and 15, section 6. That would get rid of all the references to Exhibit A. And if you need me to put it in writing, I can send it over.
Okay, yeah.
Because it's basically just taking Exhibit A away.
Right.
Did see the amendment. Now I can't see the amendment.
I'm trying to find the board bill. I don't have the, I don't know what's going on.
I got the board bill, but now I don't have the
I
amendment.
can't find anything. I'm sure it's user error. I'm just struggling here.
I have the
I
board
see-
bill, but now I don't have the amendment.
Okay, got it. Okay.
I'm like stuck in, I don't know.
Why don't we do this? Excuse me. Let's go ahead and discuss the bill, and then we'll come back to the amendments, and we can clean those amendments up after.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so let's go ahead and discuss the board bill. So we made a motion on amendment number 1. Not going to take a vote on passing that. Okay. Sorry, I'm talking to myself. So Board Bill 132 is before the committee without an amendment. So we're discussing Board Bill 132.
All right.
Alderman Tyus.
Okay, do you want me to proceed? Basically, that's what I said earlier is for a resolved line of credit amount not to exceed $5 million for 5 years. As we all know, during this pandemic, we have not been able to have events in any of our large venues, such as we haven't had baseball games, conventions, hockey. So the garages are really down in revenue. And we did take, I guess, a couple of years ago, we took $11 million from the treasurers, and then we took another $5 million. So now she finds herself without enough funds to cover her expenses or salaries and things, and an attempt to continue running the treasurer's office and not to lay people off. She has come up with an idea of trying to get a line of credit. And there are several people here that I brought with me, Mr. Jared Boyd, Mr. I'm sorry, the treasurer herself may be here. And then there's one other person I think that is here to speak to the bill if you have questions.
Okay, is there somebody from the church office that want to make a presentation before the committee in reference to the board bill?
Mr. Comer is the other person.
Okay.
Good afternoon, committee members and Chairman Boyd. We have Brandon Comer, our municipal advisor, as well as Michelle Smart, our CFO, and Chief of Staff Jared Boyd here today to make the same presentation that we did before the the Parking Commission, that when we approved it in the Parking Commission a couple of weeks ago. So Michelle, if you can take it away, I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Good morning.
Morning.
As Madam Treasurer just indicated, we had a meeting, Parking Commission meeting, where we talked in specific about the reasons behind the line of credit and our financial status at this time. Wanted to, as I did last time, wanted to bring everybody up to date in terms of what was presented during the budget presentations and where we are today. And we are in the midst of finalizing our fiscal 20 numbers with our auditors, KPMG. So I am not privy to release those final numbers at this time, but I can talk to the numbers that are relatable to the budget numbers that we presented during the budget season as it relates to fiscal 20 and the projections that we had presented at that time for fiscal 20. And as Alderwoman Tyus said earlier, we have issues in terms of our revenue as it relates to events and parking meters and in our garages. And so from a revenue standpoint, fiscal 20 actual is down 7% from what we had projected during the budget season. Mainly because we're seeing a decrease in meters and ticket revenue of about 10 and 7% respectively, as it related to the COVID situation and not having revenues coming in from the time period of March to mid-June. Also, the events being suspended from that same time period have created decreases in our revenue, in particular with the Kill and City Hall facilities and the Williams facilities, of about 7 and 13% decrease respectively there as it relates to events. Our monthly and daily revenue within the garages, because of course we had several companies and individuals that were no longer going to work or working remotely, so they did not utilize our facilities. And so that was a decrease overall in our garages of about 6%. We also have experienced issues with our rental revenue, our rental properties at our Argyle garage, because, you know, as we all know, businesses are struggling. So we have a tenant in our Argyle garage that had rent abatements for 3 months, and then the business still ended up closing after that. And we also have issues in the Justice garage with the business there that asked for an abatement for the last 4 months of our fiscal year, and is still continuing to be closed at this time. So that attributed to the revenue being down, like I said earlier, about 7%, as we had projected for fiscal 20. And then on the expenditure side, we were still in the process of transitioning our parking violations bureau from one contractor to the next, as well as transitioning our equipment, our ticket processing equipment. And that required some additional expenditures to do that. I'm sorry? Did somebody say something? I'm sorry. That requires some additional expenditures to do that. So we had an increase in our equipment and improvements of about 48% because of that transition. But on the flip side, we experienced a tremendous amount of savings on the outsourcing side as it relates to the ticket processing and the meters and collections, the contract that we have with our outsourcing company, of about $472,000 of savings there, just in the short time frame of experiencing that. All of those factors together, as it relates to a budget, I guess a projection to actual presentation that you had seen during the budget season, puts us at a negative net position of about $540,000, as compared to us projecting we would be slightly favorable of $67,000. So a change of $606,000 to the negative. And as I stated earlier, I'm not able to talk completely about the budgeted numbers because, again, what I didn't preface earlier, and I apologize, this is a purely cash basis look at what our numbers are, which is what we always present during the budget time. But our final numbers that will come out in an audit will be a modified accrual basis, which we've always done. And so that takes into consideration other factors, such as some non-capitalizable repairs and repair and maintenance that we do within our garage facilities, depreciation expenses. Also, on the positive side, we will be reflecting TIF revenue in those numbers, as well as any interest income that we have on our bond fund investments at this time. in addition to what was mentioned earlier of the $5 million transfer that was sent to the general fund this year under Board Bill 13. We will not have a 40% transfer to the general fund as a result of our financial situation at this time. And so our numbers that you will see that will be issued by the 28th of October of this year will be considerably larger in terms of the negative impact of what fiscal 20 did bring as it relates to adding all those factors that I just mentioned that you will see when those reports come out. Anybody have any questions on fiscal 20? If not, I'll move into fiscal 21 and the continuation of why we are saying that this line of credit is definitely needed for our financial stability. We continue to struggle with the revenue side. And when we presented the budget for fiscal 21, there were factors that we were
You're on mute, Ms. Smart.
Michelle, you're muted.
I must have pressed it by mistake. Sorry about that. In terms of our revenue, we had discussions during the budget process with Enterprise Center and trying to get a handle on what type of revenues would be expected for the fiscal year. And as we had talked about during the budget season, our numbers were a moving target then and continue to be a moving target because there's so many unknowns. But at the budget time, there was, I guess, an anticipation, hopefully a optimism that there would be some revenue money coming in from an event standpoint. Since fiscal year 21 has begun and we're continuing to deal with the COVID-19 situation, there has not been any event revenue. Not really anticipating any event revenue at this time for fiscal 21. It could be a possibility, but it's not, in a moving target. So as we look to project fiscal 21, we removed anything that was in our numbers from an event revenue standpoint. That being said, we are also still experiencing challenges in our parking facilities as it relates to the same situation that we had during fiscal 20, people working from home, companies not utilizing the facilities. And so as we project forward, let me back up one more thing as well. During the budget season, in anticipation of knowing that these unknowns and everything was going on with COVID-19, we did make a tremendous step in our expenditures, with personnel being our largest expenditure base. We looked at our personnel and we did not have any salary increases built in for fiscal 21. And we also made a reduction of 10 FTEs to remove any new hires that we had anticipated during the budget season, as well as any open positions that we had in the division. We removed all of those because we knew that revenue was going to be a challenge, and with expenditures in our personnel expenditures being about 42% of our expenditures, we knew that was where we needed to look at it specifically. And we've also looked at other areas in our expenditures, scrubbing things as well as we can to make sure we're being fiscally sound, but still making sure our facilities are running in as much of an efficient and safe manner as possible. So with that being said, still looking at everything, we have now projected fiscal 21 to be down 31% in revenue which is roughly $5.5 million below where we had originally presented the budget in April of last year.
Michelle, you're muted again.
I need to move my paper. Okay. That is attributable, the decrease in revenue of, like I said, 31% is mainly attributable to, excuse me, meters and ticket processing being down 14 and 18% respectively, as well as our monthly and daily revenue continuing to be down about 24% based on, and these numbers are based on what we had seen thus far through August, actual numbers. We've also taken a review of September's numbers, and September is not anything dramatically different from what August has been. So we're feeling that these numbers are tracking pretty well against what we have experienced thus far. And as I stated earlier, there's no event revenue in any of our facilities. That's all been removed. We still continue to have challenges in our rental revenue. We're looking at about an 80% loss in the Argyle facility based on the business that closed that I indicated that occurred near the end of fiscal 20. We're looking to hopefully fill that space, but at this point, that is their revenue was 80% of the total revenue that was coming out of there from rental revenue. The Justice facility continues to still be closed and are being abated right now, at least through the end of December. And we have a tenant at 7th and Pine that has been abated for July and August, and now are experiencing a 50% reduction in their rental revenue from September through December based on their financial situation. So that has all been factored in. From an expenditure standpoint, we are anticipating getting some reimbursement on COVID-related supplies and personnel type expenditures that we experience because of trying to make sure that our facilities are safe, and we anticipate getting about $71,000 back from thus far from what we've submitted on those expenditures. So you can see there's a slight favorability there based on that. We are scheduled to do tenant improvements in our facilities based on the rental, the leases on our rental properties. But we are also trying to schedule those in a way that will maybe temporarily suspend or push back on some of those based on just trying to, again, be more conscious about expenditures going out. Our merchant fees, we are seeing a savings there because, of course, if our credit card transactions are down for both meters, ticket processing, and monthly and daily parking, of course, you would not experience the same type of fee base that you would have normally gotten in a robust environment. So we are seeing savings there. And we're also going to experience some savings in the bond principal payments as it relates to the refunding, which we will get into more on another discussion yet to come today. But that is factored in as well. But even because of the impact of the revenue, we've factored in a savings of about $743,000 on expenditures, but because of the large impact of the revenue being at $5.5 million, we are still looking at a total year net position of 4.7 million loss, which is why it is critical to make sure that we position ourselves, that we are not, hopefully not depleting our reserves, any unrestricted reserves any further. And as we look to try to continue to deal with the challenges with the personnel issues. Does anyone have any questions?
So it's kind of difficult to follow you when it's just an oral presentation. Do you have a report that you can actually furnish the committee so it's easier for us to move through what you're talking about?
Sure, it would be the same report that was presented during the parking commission meeting. So yes, I do have that.
Okay. I think it will be helpful for the committee. I'm just going to go around and take questions based on the oral presentation and start with Alderman Murphy.
Yeah, I guess just one, just a curiosity thing. The vendors that currently do this, they receive a flat rate regardless of revenue collected?
The vendors that do what? I'm sorry.
They receive a flat rate regardless of what revenue is collected. They don't get, in other words, we don't pay them a percentage of the revenue collected. They have a flat rate regardless of what.
You're speaking of our meter outsourcing? Is that what you're speaking of?
Any of it, yes.
Alderwoman Michelle, can I answer?
Sure, go right ahead.
Yes.
That's correct, Alderwoman Murphy. The agreements that we have with our vendors and the terms were bid on in summer of 2019, and the actual payment terms were agreed upon in September of 2019. So those, with the expectation that we would realize some savings, and based upon the bids that were submitted for those services as well. And to kind of, but I also want to highlight the fact that the previous vendor, Conduent, was per meter on a per meter basis, but there was a floor for the number of meters. So there was a 7,700 floor on the number of meters. So while it appeared as if they were being paid on a per unit basis, there was a floor for how many meters that we could actually kind of use. So in essence, they were being paid per unit, but with a floor for the number of meters that we could actually kind of reduce out of our inventory. So there was a floor for those folks. So they, in essence, had a flat rate plus.
And how long is this current contract in effect?
3 years.
Three more years?
No. The new contracts are for 3 years from 2020. The previous contract was for 5 years.
Okay, so this one's 3. So this one will be up in 23?
With renewal options.
Options. Okay, thank you. That's all for now. Thanks.
Alderman Coulter.
Thank you, Chairman. Thanks for the presentation, Michelle. Couple follow-ups. I was trying to take some notes as you were talking. When you were discussing fiscal year 20 revenues, just want to confirm here, did you say that overall meter revenue was down 10% and ticket revenue was down 7%? Did I get that right?
That is correct.
Okay. And then ultimately garage revenue was down for fiscal year 20, 13%.
Garage revenue is basically down. It was down about 6%.
Oh, okay.
20. Yeah.
6%. Sorry about that.
Mm-hmm.
And it might be important to note, Michelle, you distinguish between garage revenue and event revenue?
Yes. Garage revenue, when I talk about that, that is basically the monthly parkers that we have, as well as the transient parking. It would not include event revenue.
Okay, so for fiscal year 20, how much was event revenue down?
The event revenue was basically down, looks to be about 7%.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's why I wrote. All right,
Yeah.
cool. All right, and then as we move into fiscal year 21, which is obviously entirely during this this pandemic, I get there's no event revenue, right? I mean, there
Right.
haven't been any events. Okay.
We completely removed it, yes.
Can you talk to me about, maybe I missed this, but how are our meter and ticket revenues for fiscal year 21?
As far as the meters and tickets, I had said right now, we're anticipating those being down 14 and 18%, based on the trending that we've seen thus far through September. The actual numbers that we've seen thus far.
Okay. All right. And then you mentioned that, okay, that you're not doing any, to make sure I've got this right. Did you say as part of your cost controls, given these revenue decreases, you're not having any new hires and you're not doing any raises?
We don't have any raises built in. The only hires that would occur at this point is if there is a position that was filled at the time, at the beginning of the fiscal year. The position is currently filled, that the person leaves or whatever, and we will refill that position if it is deemed to be a necessity. We are looking at those things still. If somebody leaves, is that position essential? Is it something we need to fill at this time? And if it is, we will fill it. Otherwise, there will not be any new positions added.
Okay. Could you speak to some other sort of cost control measures you guys are taking? What other belt tightening you're doing as a result of the pandemic?
As I said earlier, the other thing that we continue to look at is, all our other operating expenses. We looked at the other large categories, which includes any type of repairs, maintenance type things that go on in the garages. As those become apparent or something is brought to our attention that there needs to be something done, we look to make sure that that is a necessity, or is that something that can be held for the moment. Tenant improvements, same types of things. We're looking to see if those are something that have to occur, or can they be pushed for a while. So any type of large dollar expenditures that normally would come with keeping garages moving, functioning, we're looking at, is it a necessity? And if it is, then is there another manner of which it can be done? Or is it a necessity, an expense that needs to occur? What we call a scrubbing of expenditures. Those things are being looked at consistently, constantly, continually.
Got it. And you mentioned, tenant improvements. When you say tenant improvements, are you referring to like improvements in the commercial spaces that are being leased?
Right.
Where do you have commercial spaces? I know where is that? Clark and attached to the Justice Center.
Right, the Justice Center and
then do you guys have like retail space in some of the garages?
Argyle and 7th and Pine, yes.
Okay. So do you have, for this fiscal year 21, and I'm sorry, I don't have these in front of me, what was sort of projected in the original budget for tenant improvements versus what do you anticipate actually doing given the current situation?
Yeah, I've got that in just 1 second here. Give me 1 second. Okay. Right now, we had budgeted like $394,000 in that category, but we're looking to bring that in hopefully at about $188,000. So savings of $206.
I mean, I'm assuming some of the tenants who are scheduled to get tenant improvements, are any of them on rent abatements currently, or some sort of decreased rent?
Not the ones that would be slotted for that, no. Of course, anybody that was on rent abatement, that wouldn't necessarily happen. So
All right. And then I guess my last question maybe is just generally about the board bill. I know before the presentation, there was a discussion, and this is to anyone on the treasurer's team, about Exhibit A and removing those references. I just want to be clear, there's no Exhibit A to the bill, or is there going to be an Exhibit A?
No, there will not be an Exhibit A to the bill.
Okay. All right. That's all I've got now, Chairman. Thank you, everybody.
Okay, Alderwoman Martin.
I think most of my questions been asked. Thank you.
Alderwoman Pam Boyd.
Thank you. Most of my questions were asked.
Alderman Bosley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It was a great presentation. I don't think I have any questions either. I will say this, I think it's important for most of our departments to kind of have more of a, well, not more of, because it takes a lot of time to put these numbers together, but as far as like a 3 and 4 or 5 year plan, I know we're looking at the immediate needs that we'll need over the next few years, but I'm sure as time ticks on, we probably will have much more needs throughout the city to have some more funding due to the fiscal impact of COVID. So, glad you all are thinking ahead.
Okay. Alderwoman Middlebrook.
I have no questions. Thank you.
Okay. Can we get, so Ms. Smart, we need a report, a hard copy of your presentation. Also, can we get a report on ticket processing for 2017, 18, and 19, and 20?
17, 18, 19, and 20.
And can you briefly talk about how many tickets have been written since March, or actually this whole year? Monthly. Would you happen to have the monthly?
The monthly numbers for this year so far?
2020.
Yeah, right now through September, it looks like we have written about 57,000 tickets. That compared to this time last year, July through September of 2019, that was about 73,000. So we are definitely down.
Okay, and can we get those monthly those reports detailing month by month, not just the summary for the ticket process?
Come in.
Oh, I'm sorry.
They want to go out.
Oh. Ms. Martin.
Monthly?
Uh-huh.
I will look into that. Yes, I'll look into it.
Okay. So we're going to hold the bill until we receive the hard copy, and then we'll have the amendments will probably be straight as well, the next hearing. So we're going to hold Board Bill 132, and we're going to move on to Board Bill 133. Alderwoman Tyus, you're recognized on Board Bill 133.
Could I address 132 for one moment, please?
Yes.
I did correct the amendment. The clerk has them, so you'll have them in your email as well as online. Alderman Coder was correct. I did not, at 4 o'clock in the morning, I wasn't able to remember to take out the other section 6. So I did address that and send that to the clerk while you were speaking to the members that the treasurer brought with her, to the people she brought to, especially Mrs. Smart. So that's, you should have it now. But
okay.
So will this be on the next agenda for the Streets Committee once you get your information?
Yeah, we'll bring it back up once we get the documentation. Yes.
Okay, Board Bill number 133 is a board bill recommended by the Parking Commission in the City of St. Louis, authorizing and directing the city, acting through the treasurer of the city in their capacity as parking supervisors, to issue and sell parking revenue bonds Series 2020. It's basically a refinancing of the parking revenue bonds. And again, the treasurer has brought a group of people that can explain this board bill better than I, although in my usual fashion, I did go through it page by page and have read it, but I think that they can explain it better. And I would like to, with the chair's permission, turn it over to the treasurer and the staff that she brought with her.
Okay.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, it's Brandon Comer. The parking division issued.
Brandon, can you tell everybody your role with the treasurer's office so it's clear?
Sure, Mr. Chairman. Brandon Comer, municipal advisor for the City of St. Louis Parking Division Treasurer's Office. In 2015, the parking division issued revenue bonds, which was the proceeds were used for the upgrade to the parking meters and some other improvements for about $6.4 million. Those bonds currently have an outstanding balance of $5,040,000, and they're currently callable. The interest rate, currently outstanding interest rates on those bonds are from 2.08% to 3.5%. And they have a debt service reserve fund tied to them of about $516,688. So as we were looking at opportunities to save, obviously, given the current impact of COVID-19 on the division's revenues, we saw an opportunity to refund this debt that would reduce the debt service as well as the overall interest paid on those bonds. And as we began looking into the marketplace and getting an idea of what rates would be, our analysis showed that by refunding these bonds and not having to have a debt service reserve fund, the city would save about $730,000 in debt service, of which around $700,000 we could structure to be saved over the first 2 years. So again, given the cash flow constraints experienced by the parking division, that would certainly be helpful. The bonds would be sold, in a direct placement with a likely bank purchaser. And a part of that is, the parking division has historically enjoyed, an A credit rating for its senior debt, an A- rating for its subordinate debt. But like other credits, such as the parking division, conventions and things that are reliant upon, certain types of revenue, there has been a sharp decline. And so those credits aren't being as readily accepted in the marketplace, given the uncertainty around the amount of time in which their revenues will experience this decline. And so we're very fortunate in the fact that we'd already begun having discussions, with institutions, and that we feel that we can still lock in, a rate below 2% that would allow the parking division to realize the savings. But timing is of the essence, because there is a December the 15th payment that is due on these bonds that we are wrapping into this, and not being able to do that would have an impact on the savings. So we definitely want to stress the fact that the calendar is very important in our ability to wrap that December 15th payment into this refunding. The second piece is, as we continue to burn cash, because as Michelle stated, revenues do not cover expenditures, and therefore there is a cash burn, then the parking division will continue to deplete its liquidity, which is a credit negative. And so as we continue to do that, what we can realize in the market will also be impacted, as the credit becomes to be viewed more and more risky. So I also just want to make sure that everyone is cognizant that being able to get the line of credit in place and no longer depleting cash reserves also has an effect not just on getting the line of credit, but it also has an impact on the overall credit of the parking division, which could potentially impact the refunding as well. So, and showing that there is a plan in place such that the parking division would not be impaired from being able to meet its operating expenses. I believe that provides a full overview. Again, the savings are about 730,000, of which most will be realized in the first 2 years. And there would not be a debt service reserve fund tied to it. It will be through a negotiated direct placement. And I'll pause at this point, Mr. Chairman, to see if you or any other members have any questions.
Yeah, Brandon, do you have a report of this presentation that you're giving? It's just kind of hard to, I mean, I understand oral presentations, but a lot of time if you have the documentation in front of you to follow along, it kind of makes more sense. Do you have some a printout of your presentation, and can it show the cost savings that you're talking about and also the expense to refinancing the bonds as well?
I do, Mr. Chairman. It will be the same report provided to the Parking Commission. I can provide that to the committee, or I can pull it up and share a screen if that's advisable at this time.
Well, a hard copy would be helpful.
Okay.
Let me go around and ask committee members if they have any questions based on the oral presentation. Alderman Murphy. Alderwoman Murphy. Okay, she might be in another meeting. Alderman Kotar.
Yeah, just what are the estimated sort of transactional fees associated with this, I guess, with this refi?
We're estimating cost of issuance not to exceed 2%.
And sorry, is this for 5-point-something million in debt?
Yeah, the likely par amount is going to be about 4.3 million because we're releasing the reserve fund from the prior transaction.
Got it. Thank you. Nothing further.
Alderman Martin.
No questions.
Alderman Pam Boyd.
I don't have any questions. It's just as I'm trying to follow, and it's kind of hard for me because I'm listening to what they're saying and I'm trying to keep up. But it seems as though that the treasurer's office, as other departments, has a lot of challenges ahead of them because of the COVID and the impact it has had on them with revenue. I see that. But I'm kind of with the chair, if I could get copies so I can read it more. But like I said, I don't have any questions. I do see you all are trying to adjust your budget per the pandemic, which is impacting you. But it's just hard for me because I'm a visual person. So I would rather like to have something visually so I can read it and comprehend it. Thank you.
Alderman Bosley.
No questions at this time. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Alderman Middlebrook.
I have no questions at this time.
Okay, Alderwoman Murphy. Okay, she's distracted. Mr. Comer, so you're financial advisor for the parking, and you also do work for the city as a whole, right?
We serve as financial advisor to the treasurer's office.
Are you under contract with the city on bonds? Do you have a contract where you work with PFM?
On bonds, no. I believe asset management, yes.
So you do asset management for the city as a whole, and then you do financial advising for the parking division.
That's correct.
Okay. All right, we're going to bring this back up once we get the presentation, the documentation before the committee. So we're not going to take a vote on it today. Alderwoman Tyus.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. I appreciate your need for visual attachments. That is also my problem because I like to mark them up. So is it your wish that if I come before this committee again with anything such as this, that there be a written presentation of whatever they're going to talk about, of whatever anybody else would talk about? Is that your preference as a chair?
Absolutely. I mean, it's pretty standard in most committees that whenever somebody make a presentation, that the committee members actually have a hard copy of the presentation. That's pretty standard since I've been at the Board of Aldermen.
I'm not arguing with you. I just wanted to make sure I will do it from now on. Okay. Thank you.
You're more than welcome. Okay. Well, that concludes the board bills for today. So what we're going to receive from the treasurer's office is ticket processing information for 2017, 18, 19, and 20. Also, Madam Treasurer.
Yes.
There was a good presentation made by Mr. Adams about the amnesty program. Again, it was an oral presentation. Can we get a hard copy report on the amnesty program?
Sure.
Okay, I appreciate that. All righty. Well, thank you. And we're going to move on to resolution 52, sponsored by Alderwoman Middlebrook.
And Chairman,
Mr. President.
Yeah,
sorry, point of order, Mr. Chairman. I've got to be in the COVID committee meeting that's starting right now, so I'm going to jump over. Will you just text me if you need me back for anything?
Okay.
Thank you.
Alderman Murphy, I believe, has to join that as well, right?
Yes, sir.
All righty. Well, see you guys later.
Okay.
Resolution 52, sponsored by Alderwoman Middlebrook. Alderwoman Middlebrook, you're recognized on Resolution 52.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the committee. Resolution 52 is just a resolution to call upon the Streets Department to expedite the request for proposal process and select a winning proposal in accordance with the RFP goals to utilize waste management as a resource for product and/or energy, and to decrease greenhouse gas emissions from solid waste management activities. Further inaction with the RFP increases the likelihood that the current waste management contract will be renewed. Again, continuing the status quo of sending a disproportionate amount of renewable energy and recycled materials to landfills. And that is all I have.
Okay. We have anybody from the street department on? Anybody from the street department? Anybody from the mayor's office? Okay. I don't see anybody. You know what? Somebody from the mayor's office should be here. I am going to do a quick, how do I do this? I'm trying to stall for time, y'all.
Take a 5-minute recess and then I could come back if you need that much. So you can make.
Okay, Jamie says they're muted. So Jamie is on here somewhere. STL-TV, do you see Jamie Wilson?
I do not. Can you text me or message in the chat if they're calling in?
Okay. His last four is 3140. He's on the phone.
Yep, okay.
Got him? Okay. Mr. Wilson, You look like you're muted. Okay.
Chairman Boyd, this is Debbie Dooster with the City Councilor's Office, and I am here with Jamie Wilson, Director of Streets, to speak on Resolution 52.
Okay. I want to go ahead and recognize you guys to speak before we get too wrapped up into it. So can you guys speak to the resolution?
Yes, sir. And if you would indulge to allow the City Councilor's Office, the Mayor's Office did advise that Resolution 52 would be brought up and asked that Director Wilson appear. The City Councilor's Office just needed to kind of intercede just a bit. As you're aware, Director Wilson sits on the selection committee for this particular RFP. Okay. And as you know, the selection committee process is, we have pending sealed proposals, and the selection committee process is a closed meeting process. And so, to my knowledge, we haven't had a selection committee member or a chairperson appear or make public comments while those sealed proposals are pending. Okay. And the risk is that we are going to taint that RFP process by having public statements on this RFP, particularly by someone on the committee. I'm sure, as everyone is aware, selection committee process is authorized by ordinance and then has rules that guides the committee. And in particular, those rules want to guard against conflicts of interest as well as any process of undue influence upon the committee while those sealed proposals are pending. And our concern as to any comments that anybody, we actually restrict the members of the committee from making comments by those rules for selection committees. And I would just point out that the RFP itself has a provision under Section 3.3, which states no city selection committee member, official, employee, or representative of the city is to be contacted by a proposer with respect to the RFP, and doing so may result in rejection of the proposal. So the concern of the City Councilor's Office would be that any public statements specifically on the RFP or the process pending would potentially taint the RFP, as well as whether it raises the issue if there's been any outside conflict raising the undue influence issue. With that, I don't know if the committee wants to proceed, or Mr. Chairman, if you want to proceed further.
You brought up some very good points. I think we should not get too bogged down into that process. But what I would like to do, since we have people here that have concerns about how the city does its recycling and handles its solid waste, we'll just have some conversation about that in general. Would that cause a problem?
My concern is that having the Resolution 52, and that is the matter that we're appearing under, that any comments, if I was a proposer, honestly, if I was submitting a bid in this process, if comments are made, under this resolution, my concern would be that hey, why didn't you tell me about this? Why wasn't this in the RFP? What am I supposed to be paying attention to this? I certainly think if we want to schedule Director Wilson, I do see that, part of the discussion was some of the city's current recycling goals. And I think certainly to reschedule Director Wilson under an agenda item such as that definitely causes less concern. We're going to muddy it up, in terms of thinking of, again, from the outside looking in, if we start to continue to have a discussion on the matters that touch this RFP.
I would agree. I would take that under advisement with the advice of council. Why don't we would just hold Resolution 52. So we will not have any discussion on Resolution 52 today. However, I do think it's important that we have a conversation about how we deal with our waste. And I would like to schedule another meeting where we can have a public conversation about that.
Yes, sir.
So did you want to say something?
No, I said yes, sir.
Okay, got it. Okay, so we're gonna hold resolution 52. I will get with the sponsor and see if we can come up with another date to kind of talk trash, if you will. But we don't necessarily have to do it in a resolution form. We can just, call a meeting to have a discussion. Mr. Wilson, you good with that?
I am, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, I think it's time to talk about a lot of refuse issues anyway right now. So this resolution is kind of timely to kind of talk about trash, if you will. So Alderman Middlebrook, are you good with that?
Yes, I am, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. So we will go around and see if anybody have any comments on the committee before we wrap this up. I appreciate everybody that signed up to speak on the resolution, but again, under the advisement of City Council's office, we wouldn't be a good idea to do that today. So Alderwoman Martin, you have anything? I don't see her. Did she drop off?
No, I know I'm here. I'm good.
Okay. Alderwoman Pam Boyd. Okay. Alderman Bosley.
No, sir.
All right. Well, I think we're going to wrap up the Streets, Traffic, and Refuse Committee today. Again, thank you, committee members, and we will reschedule another meeting to just have some general discussion about the city's waste and refuse. So with that, meeting's adjourned.